Welcome to the show. We've got Rod Blackhurst, director of Blood for Dust. What a great film. I had the privilege of seeing it. It's got Kit Harington, Scoot McNary, Josh Lucas, Stephen Dorff. What a cast. I want to get a little bit of your origin story, what led you to this script, and we can just kind of talk about it from there. But I was thrilled to watch it.
That's very kind. Yeah, the cast is remarkable. It's like I still pinch myself getting or thinking about the fact that I got to make a movie with actors who I love and revere and who have been in movies that I love. It's awesome. I mean, I grew up without a TV in the woods of upstate New York. I read books. I played in the woods. I drew. I took photographs. But I loved movies, and I always wanted to make movies. So yeah, it's awesome to get to again work with such accomplished actors who also believed in me and believed in what we were trying to do. This film and this script is based on a story I wrote with screenwriter David Ebeltoft. We had all made a low budget or a no budget genre film back in 2015 called Here Alone that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, or was called the Tribeca Film Festival then, and became the only midnight film to win the audience award.
Wow.
And really, the minute that was done, we said, well, we got to do it again. And we have to call in the same group of people and figure out how to make a new movie. And in this film, we started writing in the fall of 2016, and it took us, I guess, maybe 6 or 7 years. I'm not so good at math when I'm on the spot, but it took until 2022 to put it together. And really, it took finding a way to get in touch with Scoot McNary, because he became involved in the fall of 2020. And once he became involved, other people started to pay attention to the movie. And I think that's a testament to Scoot as an actor and as an artist and as a person. He's beloved, and by other actors, but he's also I think beloved by audiences who have seen him in so many things. And for me, it was selfishly just the chance to get to see more of Scoot McNary being in a lead role. He's usually the guy that's just absolutely annihilating character parts or the supporting roles and things. And again, selfishly, I was like, well, I want to make a movie where Scoot is in almost every shot and in every scene. And I got to do that. So again, I get to pinch myself.
He really is a scene stealer, isn't he?
He's a chameleon too, right? And in this movie, Scoot has the harder of the two lead roles, I would think. The character of Ricky, played by Kit Harington, is the dangerous, exciting, baddie, and Scoot's character Cliff is the quiet, contemplative, calculating guy you'd never think might be able to do what he does ultimately in the movie. Again, no spoiler alerts.
Right.
And that's sort of the harder role to play. That's the harder thing to do. It's it's subtle and it doesn't call attention to itself. And I think that again, that takes, I don't know, chutzpah or courage. I don't know what the right term is for somebody to want to do, especially when you're opposite somebody that's snazzy and showy and devilish, such as Kit Harington's take on Ricky. So yeah, Scoot's a remarkable person, and it actually is just a joy to be able to get to call him my friend. And I texted him the other day. We were talking about something, and he said, "Oh man, I'll read that as soon as I can. I got to go to New York City I took a day job, or and I was like, oh, okay. And then about 3 days later, I read a Deadline article that he had joined the James Mangold, Timothy Chalamet, Bob Dylan biopic. And that was Scoot's idea of a day job. And I was like, this is so Scoot McNary. I don't even know what it is. And I texted him, I was like, oh, so this is your day job. And he goes, yeah, man, it's been wild. And I'm like, that's why I love you. That's why I want to make a lot of movies with you. Cause he's a Texas boy at heart who lives up in, in the hills of Los Angeles. But, on set, Scoot met some of our local, picture vehicle wranglers in Billings, Montana. And sometimes we'd get to lunch and we'd break for lunch and Scoot would be like, I'm going to be right back. And he'd go to their property and go mudding or like go like, drive like trucks or cars like off-roading on their land. I actually think he bought a truck in Montana and shipped it back to California because that's just Scoot
awesome.
McNary. And like, who doesn't want more of that in their life? I want more of that in my life. Remarkable guy. And the father, like something that like we talked about often, like, we both have 2 kids and we're both trying to find our way in the world. So again, awesome actor, awesome man.
So when you were working on this thing and you were developing it, did you always have him in mind, like writing this quiet character for
Oh my
someone to really
gosh.
kind of chew up a scene?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is like the rare case where like, I'll back up a little bit. Back in 2012, I had a short film at the South by Southwest Film Festival. It was a short film with Dave Franco. And David Gordon Green, who's one of my like filmmaking, I don't know, he's like the guy that, well, actually there's David Gordon Green poster. That's a movie, the movie George Washington of his that I saw back in the day that for someone who grew up without a TV really started to expand my mind about what American cinema could be. And really as an auteur and someone who was thinking very differently. Anyway, so but David Gordon Green was at the festival in 2012. He was at a filmmaker meet and greet and he was handing out his email address to filmmakers who had films there. And I managed to like jot it down. Actually, I think I only took a photograph of the piece of paper somebody else was holding. In time, I worked up the courage to write David. And at the time, my friend David Ebeltoft, who ended up wrote Here Alone, but wrote Blood for Dust, and our friend Elgin James, who's an accomplished filmmaker and is the showrunner of Mayans MC. We had written a film together called North. And at the time, I was trying to get North to Scoot McNary. And I told David Green about it. And David kindly mentioned me and my work to Scoot. I think they were making a film in South America or Central America called Our Brandis Crisis. And David, I don't know, David vouched for me enough. Because I'll never forget this. I was wandering around Coney Island one day in the winter when I lived in New York City. My mother and father were visiting, and I got a call from David. I just remember it was cold, and I had to find a place where everything was closed in Coney Island where I could take this phone call. And we talked about Scoot, and then in time, I think I got an email through David or through Scoot's manager where Scoot had watched the first 2 movies I'd made and had kind things to say. And this was right around the time that we started writing Blood for Dust. And I truly just want to make movies with Scoot McNary. And I want to make many movies with Scoot McNary. And it's exactly who we created Blood for Dust for. I don't even know who it would be otherwise. And it's crazy that it exists like that, right? Because that's so often not the case in movies, right? Like you have this idea and it doesn't come together, or you have to make compromises. And it didn't happen at all here. So it's very surreal to get to be here at this juncture.
It's awesome.
There's this movie that exists with the actor I love, who it took me, at that point. Again, I saw him in 2011 in this movie, and I was like, I need to make a movie with that guy. Like that's the everyman. That's me. That's so many people I know, and here we are.
You manifested it, dude. And
I mean, dude, that's right. This is right. Yeah. Dream it, believe it. What's the field? Yeah. Like will it into existence. Yeah.
Yep. Scream it to the heavens. So this is a crime thriller to say the least. And it's a nostalgia peak. So it takes place. What year is this film like?
Yeah, it's the movie set in 1993.
Okay, so
mostly in 1993.
So the 90s are kind of making like a bit of a comeback. You're seeing more and more 90s. Was there anything specific, like any reason why you decided like let's do this in the 90s? Because this movie, you could have done it any time. You could have done it in the 70s. You could have done it today. So why 93?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of small reasons for why 1993. The first is like traveling salesmen were still very much a thing. And traveling salesman, Cliff, played by Scoot McNary, is a traveling salesman, and but a traveling salesman kind of stands in for a filmmaker's existence. This person who's kind of rowing upstream, the odd duck out, looking for people to believe in what they're selling. And in Scoot's character's case, like he's a good man. He's doing good things. He's actually selling something that's needed and necessary.
Right.
And I think that like Really, like that's just selfishly us trying to find a way to approximate our existence in a character in a movie.
I
Um,
like that.
Also, the 1993 and the early 90s predate the internet. And what we found when we were talking back in 2016, when we were like just thinking about ideas and time ways to write movies, and like I don't know, just thinking of all the stories we wanted to tell. To us, it was like we were interested in this idea of like the world was still small then, and
Yeah.
people
Okay.
weren't looking everywhere. There wasn't like everything wasn't under a microscope, and that meant like there was not just no social media or no like, but it just was that like what you were told about the world and the way that the world worked and existed was, I think, for most people very different than the reality of what it was, because we were things were being posited that weren't absolutely true, but that was what you were led to believe. I mean, I think about like the reasons why George Bush invaded Iraq,
Yeah.
and it
Yellow
really
cake.
was
Yeah.
to to get everyone to not pay attention to the banking crisis this situation that was going on in Boston. And it's like, well, it was positioned a certain way, but that wasn't accurate. And so it was like fascinating to think about the reasons why people did the things that they did. And based on the ways that they were told the world worked, and soon I think as the internet entered everybody's lives, we were able to learn that those things we were being told weren't entirely true. So there was that. I mean, there was also this element of like the American West, certainly back then. I mean, in some ways still now, like was a place where people went to get away with things, reinvent
Yeah.
themselves, find fortune, right? And that doesn't mean in the negative sense, but like it was a place where people went to change their stars. And that's always what the American West was. So once you start getting these kind of different pieces together, right in the heart of that became this story, and this story about the things that a family man was willing to do to take care of his family, and then the realities of like navigating that existence in those choices and wondering what you do next, which again was relatable whether or not you're running guns and drugs, which certainly like
Yeah.
I'm not doing as a filmmaker, although I've maybe I would do some things to finance my next movie, if we're being honest, but we can talk about that another day.
I do like the comparisons, though. I think it's really interesting because I can see it as you describe it. So, I mean, walk me through getting Kit Harington playing a villainous character, which was like totally unexpected.
Man, Kit Harington is remarkable in this film, and I'm not just saying that because it's my movie. What I've heard is that people, it's so unexpected, right? People keep telling me that, like, man, I didn't know this. I like this is crazy, right? Like he's not been this, and I'm going, well, that's exactly why he's perfect for this. Like actors and artists and creative people, we all are many different things. We're not. It's like we're not one thing, and the same is true for Kit. And I think that like I don't know. It's just he's incredible. I mean, I said this to somebody else recently, but like I remember seeing Robert Pattinson and David Michôd's film The Rover, which randomly has Scoot McNary in it as well, but as Guy Pearce is in the lead role, and I remember thinking like Robert Pattinson, oh my god, this like I obviously of course an actor is capable of so much more. They are not just the things they have done. That there's an artist and a soul inside of these people that's screaming to do other things. And I remember thinking,
Yeah.
man, Robert Pattinson is remarkable in this movie. And I really hope that like selfishly, when people see Blood for Dust, they go, man, Kit Harington is remarkable in this movie, and that it just affords them the chance to be many other things and to not get placed in a box. I've been placed in a box as a filmmaker. I feel like I got stuck in the documentary box after the first
Oh.
documentary I did well. And people kept saying, well, you're a documentary filmmaker who also makes fiction films. And I go, no, 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 no. I'm a filmmaker who will tell any story that I have a point of view on. Sometimes it's a nonfiction film. Sometimes that's a comedy short. Like sometimes that's, a music video. Sometimes it's a nonfiction thing. Sometimes it's a studio movie. Sometimes it's a mainstream horror thing. Sometimes like it does like on many different things. And
Yeah.
I hope that like, if anything, this just makes people go, man, this guy is a remarkable actor, which is crazy because they already know Kit Harington is a remarkable actor just based on one TV show that they've probably
Yeah.
seen, as everyone has seen or should see. And
Right.
they're going like, man, he's incredible in that. Why wouldn't he be incredible in anything else? And again, just yeah, I mean, I'm just stoked that he wanted to do something so different. But again, I had a hunch he would. I sent some energy out into the world and we manifested it. It was, did not know Kit Harington, just sent an email to our agents saying, hey, is there any chance you could get this man the script? And like 6 weeks later, I got an email saying he's read half of it. He wants to meet. And I was like,
That's
how do I get him
fantastic.
to read the other
Half of
half?
it. Oh my God. You know, it's a
And
good
then here
script
we
and you
are.
grab him with half of it. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think he was probably, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he hadn't committed to the film yet. I will say, like, he just wanted to meet and talk about it and talk about Ricky and life and kids and all that stuff. So, yeah. And then I think he went and read the rest of the film and decided that even though I was probably a goober on that phone call or that Zoom meeting we had, that he was like, I like him enough to go to to go to
that's
Montana and
so
make a
funny.
movie with this guy. Even though we
So
like different soccer teams, and I will point that out, he likes the wrong soccer team, and we don't have to get into it. But
yeah,
he's a Man U fan,
he
and
likes a football team and you like a soccer team.
I will say that I do call it football. It's funny, like when but I only call it football because it's like it's actually a ball that's played with your feet. Like I saw somebody talk about recently that like the NFL in the United States is actually hand egg. It's an egg shaped thing touched with your hands. And I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like we're talking about football, ball and foot, and hand and egg. Like the NFL is a hand egg game, if we're being honest.
That's really clever.
Someone's going to destroy
I'll
me.
have to,
Someone's going to
yeah,
like
I
get
know. I'm
mad
gonna
at
have
me.
to say that to all of my family because I don't watch sports, so I just call it sports ball in general.
It
Could
is
be
sports ball.
anything. So we're talking sports ball, and they hate me for it. But all right, so for any burgeoning filmmakers out there looking to really start making this thing happen, do you have any tips for them?
Yes. Tips for film. This is a great question. It is damn hard to make anything. And the only two ways to do it, I think, are to um, call on your tribe, right? To come back to the people that like show up for you, you show up for them, and you build. I don't know. You build a band of misfits that like knows you can deliver. You don't need fancy things. You don't need fancy people. Although my friends are fancy and they do have fancy things now. But like they're like I used to think years ago, like you needed all these other things, and really what you needed was like love and care and people without ego, and that comes from like a tribe, right? Like there's a tribe component to filmmaking, and you do it again and again. So like a lot of the same people from making our first film Here Alone made Blood for Dust, and we're gonna make and we're already on prep on another film, and we started our studio Witchcraft off the success of Here Alone. But I think the second thing is that like when someone's starting out, they have these ideas about the things they're making, and sometimes the execution doesn't add up to the idea you had. And Ira Glass, the incredible journalist, podcast host, author, right, like talks about this as the gap. It's the space that exists between the idea you have about the thing you want to make and what the thing is in the end. And the gap is important. It's an important measure of your growth. And as you get better and try things, the gap, and as you struggle and succeed or fail, the gap, the space between changes, right? And as long as you can see the gap closing over in the life of your work, that's a clear indicator that like things are like you're moving closer and closer towards what you know you're capable of. And I think that's really that's like paying attention to the gap is really a remarkable thing for any aspiring filmmaker to be aware of. I still have things that fall into the gap and I don't show them to anybody. I don't release them. I don't send them out, small things, or sometimes it's an idea for a feature or whatever it is. But like
Yeah.
being aware of the gap is like just a constant check of where we are and who we are and what we're doing. And I think it's like, again, I'm just stealing from Ira Glass, but it's been a remarkable tool, and I turn again and again to it in my own creative existence.
So what are we looking for as distribution goes for Blood for Dust?
Yeah, Blood for Dust comes out April 19th in the United States. It's a day and date release, so it'll be digitally available, and it will be in some select theaters. I don't actually have a list
That's
of
amazing.
the theaters it will be in, but it's a very small list. And frankly, like I just want people to take a chance on the film, and so it doesn't have a wide release, and that's okay. I think like there's a good chance that because it's available digitally on the same day, that more people will find their way to it. And I'm glad that this day is finally here. I mean, the release was pushed back. It was originally going to be earlier in the year, but it was pushed back both because of the strikes that were happening last year, and I actually had another film that I was a part of, a big studio film that it would have competed with in January. This film, Night Swim, that my friend Bryce and I wrote, that Bryce made for Blumhouse and Atomic Monster. I feel like originally, a long time ago, we talked about like maybe Blood for Dust coming out in the same like first weekend of January, and I'm just glad that didn't happen, because like I have 2 kids. How would I have like talked about both kids? You know, it's like having 2 kids that both have plays on the same day. It's like, I got to go to both plays. What do I do? You know, and they're both different economies and different scales. Like one would be on Broadway and one would be off Broadway. It's like, no, they're both my kids. I love them both. Like I want them both to succeed. But luckily we're not in that position. So here we are, April 19th, in limited theaters and online.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it's a theatrical release, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
No. I mean, no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure like
that's it then.
Yeah, there's many things we could talk about. Like, who am I to like tell us what we want to talk about? I want to be the best advocate and steward of my film for you and what you're interested in. And so I'm grateful for you taking the time and carrying it all and having kind things to say, taking, you know, an hour and a half of your life to watch the movie and want to talk about it at all. I appreciate that.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I appreciate everything you've put into it. Obviously, it's a passion project, and if you ever want to come back on the show, you let me know.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate it.
Thank you.